laurel branches, beeswax, and feathers. It's hard to believe, but the first temple of Apollo in Delphi was built from these strange materials. At least, that's what the legend says. According to it, the great sanctuary of the patron god of the arts only became a monumental structure by the 6th century BC. This site is associated with a legend. The story goes that there was a serpent, Python, whom Apollo killed on this very spot. Python's mother, Gaia, was of course deeply displeased by this. As a result, Apollo had to be punished for his actions. The punishment proved to be far from ordinary. For a full 8 years, Apollo was required to serve mankind by foretelling their futures. This service was to be performed right in the sanctuary erected in his honor. Thus, the famous Delphic Oracle was established in the Temple of Apollo, a place where, for a certain fee, anyone could learn their destiny. This was a place where the priestesses of Apollo, known as the Pythia, would deliver prophecies. A gas would rise from the earth, and after inhaling it, they would utter their prophecies, most often in the form of verse. In fact, understanding these prophecies was often far from easy. The Delphic Oracle enjoyed immense popularity. Even rulers came to the Pythia for prophecies. They would not start wars without first consulting the priestesses. However, a fateful prediction could only be obtained on certain days of the year. Those who could not wait that long would travel to Didyma. This city had its own oracle, also located in a temple of Apollo. Construction of the temple began around 330 BC and continued all the way until the fall of the Roman Empire. The temple's design was intriguing. To enter, one had to first ascend and then descend into an inner courtyard. It was there that the main activities took place, where rites and rituals were performed. According to legend, the Temple of Apollo at Didyma was built by a hero named Bronchus, the son of the radiant god, who himself possessed the gift of prophecy. In honor of the sanctuary's founder, the priests were called the Bronchide. It is believed that, like the Delphic Pythia, they also foretold the future. However, these seers accepted not just coin for their work. Given that it required sacrifices, the temple, according to the writings of the Roman historian Strabo of the early 1st millennium AD, had a rather grim appearance. This was because the site of the sacrifices was a vast 8-meter deep pit filled with human and other offerings. The sanctuary was considered the wealthiest in the entire ancient world. It is not without reason that it is called the 8th wonder of the world. Leading to the temple, which was a whole complex of buildings, was the so-called Sacred Way, a road stretching 15 kilometers. Along its sides stood dozens of statues depicting Greek gods. In the courtyard grew hundreds of laurel trees with dense crowns, and the main shrine, the altar of Apollo, was adorned with an unusual sculpture. According to the descriptions of the Roman historian Pliny the Elder, what was unusual was that Apollo did not stand alone. Next to him was a mechanized animal, a deer, that could lift one hoof and then the other. It was set in motion when, by pushing off, it would rock and then shift its weight to the other leg. One could call it a kind of ancient Greek automaton. Another feature of the altar was its 20-meter-high marble columns, likely the tallest in the ancient world. In total, the architects planned to erect 120 columns. The crafting of each one took years. They managed to build only 80, of which only 3 have survived to this day.
Friends, I would like to recommend you a channel where you will find historical documentaries and deep dives into the past, from ancient civilizations and forgotten legends to historical secrets and untold stories. We bring history to life with expert narration and stunning visuals. Explore the history of ancient empires, historical figures, and rare historical facts, revealing the secrets of the past. The link to the channel will be in the description under this video.
There was one interesting column that, having fallen, appears to have broken into several pieces so neatly and evenly as if a sausage had been sliced into sections, and these pieces now lie on the ground. This raises the question, what happened to the roof that these enormous columns supported? Surprisingly, it seems there was no roof at all. As to why, researchers' opinions differ. Some believe that despite the temple being under construction for a full 600 years, they simply never got around to finishing the roof. The architects couldn't figure out how to build it. Other experts assert that a roof was never part of the original design. After all, Apollo was considered not only the patron of the arts, but the god of the sun, meaning the altar had to be illuminated by direct sunlight. And this is not the only place of worship of the son of Zeus that amazes with its architectural solutions. For example, the temple at Bassae in the south of modern Greece, contrary to the canons of the time, is oriented not from south to north, but the other way around. However, as modern scholars say, this was a necessary measure as the structure is located on the slope of Mount Cotylion. In general, building temples at an elevation is the norm. The fact is, if we look at Athens, its center and temples are located on a kind of flat-topped mountain. So, here too, partly for visual enhancement and partly to distance it from the bustle of the city, the temple at Bassae was situated as if on a mountain. There is a fascinating story associated with this temple that Apollo, exiled here, helped to stop a plague preventing its spread during the Peloponnesian War in Greece. Remarkably, the local people, grateful for their deliverance from the plague, erected the temple right in the midst of the Peloponnesian War. The hostilities did not prevent them from building a sanctuary with a huge number of columns around its perimeter. However, scholars still doubt whether this temple had the essential attribute, a statue of Apollo himself. Some believe it was replaced by a specially made Corinthian column, different from the others, serving as a sort of memorial in the center of the temple. The small sanctuary on the mountainside was far luckier than the other temples of Apollo. It is the best preserved of them all to this day. Because the structure was built far from the main trade and cultural centers of Greece, it was not destroyed by invaders. For centuries, the temple was completely forgotten, until it was accidentally discovered by archaeologists. A similar story surrounds the sanctuary of Apollo on Cyprus. A few years ago, near the ancient city of Frankisa, German researchers discovered a temple that had long been considered lost. This temple had been known about since 1885, but it was thought to be lost, with nothing of it having survived. But it was found, uncovered, excavated, and now excavations are ongoing there. According to archaeologists, this temple was built between the 4th and 1st centuries BC. Researchers suggest that it served the ancient Greeks not only as a sanctuary, but also as a cultural center, a place for political assemblies, and a bank.